Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you again for joining me. We're taking a look once more at the Kamen Rider 01 comic, this time doing issue 2. I want to apologize for the little bit of the delay between the release of the issue and now. My local store that usually grabs my issues had a bit of a delay on this one, so I didn't get that until this afternoon. That and Shin Ultraman coming out kind of prevented me from going to any other stores, so you know how it is. But you know what? I really enjoyed the first issue, and I'm glad that I was able to get the second one finally. So here we go. I'm going to take a look. Quick recap for those of you who didn't read the first issue. It picks up sometime early-ish in the season. I think it was like sometime before episode 10 or so, I determined, where a mysterious new villain named Ragnarok arrives to show up to push Aruto's shit in for no real particular reason at all. And the previous issue ended on a cliffhanger with Aruto beaten, lying on the ground, and Ragnarok about to swoop in for the kill. Issue 2 picks up from that cliffhanger with the Ames duo, Vulcan and Valkyrie, showing up to save Aruto. And the three are able to drive back Ragnarok, managing to defeat him, but he's able to run off before they can actually secure the win. After the Ames duo bemoan Aruto and berate him for being an irresponsible mess and causing havoc in his fight, after they had just spent the beginning of the first issue ranting about him about that, Aruto goes back to his office to sulk and consult with Izu about what's going on. And from there we go into a flashback scene with Aruto and the robot dad from the show, where he gets taught a lesson about not judging everything as he immediately sees, not seeing everything as black and white, and learning to observe every angle. And that convinces Aruto to try and learn to improve his situational judgment and the way he observes the battlefield after being bemoaned by the media and Ames for not doing that. So, after a quick little bit of banter with him and Izu, we go to the holodeck that Hiden Corp has that was never mentioned before this point, or ever shown beforehand. But I guess they just have a holodeck, so whatever. I mean, hey, you know what? With all the dumb shit they had in there, it's fine. I'm not going to question it. So we get a training sequence that's relatively simple. It's Aruto going through an obstacle course. But the whole trick of the obstacle course is not a literal one, but it's him trying to figure out the correct pattern through it. And that's kind of a fun little learning bit there. But unfortunately, the training is interrupted by Ragnarok arriving, who's able to hijack the cluster cells the holodeck uses to form himself a new body. And after him and Aruto fight for a little bit, Aruto's able to distract him long enough to get out of the range of the holodeck and break out of it, trapping him in there. But Aruto makes a little bit of an oopsie and doesn't, break out the correct way and leaves a giant gaping hole for Ragnarok to get through. And so Ragnarok's able to sneak his programming through, infecting some of the blank Humagears in the building and turning them into a weird vampire Batmaja. And the issue ends with another cliffhanger with the vampire Batmaja luring Aruto and the Izu to the roof, and shit starts exploding when the issue ends. So right off the bat, we have more happening in this issue, which I enjoy immediately. The opening fight where they finish up Ragnarok with the other two riders showing up. It's alright, I enjoy it. It's relatively basic. It's mostly just a lot of basic generic kicking and shooting. There's not a whole lot of focus on it. It's wrapped up fairly quickly, so there's no big spectacle moments or anything like that. Which is fine, I guess. That's your standard kind of cliffhanger resolution fight that they do in these shows, so, no big deal. But I like that. I did like that fight at the very least. It was pretty well. It was very, very well drawn. Once again, the art is absolutely spectacular here. No complaints in this one, no issues that I noticed. There's a little bit of a weird thing where in the little holodeck sequence, the holodeck structures are having this kind of like pseudo cell shading 3D look to them that looks a little funky to me, but I think that's probably deliberate. But I enjoyed the fight itself, like I said. The stuff with Ames, Yua, and Yaiba, I'm not that hot on it because it's largely derivative of the earlier episodes of the show. The whole plotline throughout of Aruto not really knowing what he's doing, being very irresponsible, indecisive, not really knowing how to properly organize the battlefield, I guess is the best way to put it. That was kind of the overarching plotline for much of the early show. And where this comic is set during the early season, it makes sense that they're going for it with it. So I'm not going to say they're completely retreading it, it's transparent. It makes sense with where they're set it, but again, having already seen that in the show, it just doesn't hold my attention as much as it did the first time. But I enjoy the rest of the issue. I think the characterization is much more spot on here. Izu feels much more in character than she did in the first issue, mostly because she's actually doing stuff here. I like her and Aruto's back and forth. Her role as sort of the exposition machine is a little bit increased here more. She's not necessarily Aruto's straight man, as she's just kind of explaining things to the audience, which again is kind of already her role, so it's not that big of a deal, but again, feels a little derivative in that direction. But the sequence with the flashback with Aruto and his dad, I really enjoyed that. That was really nice. We didn't get a whole lot of those in the actual show, so I think we only had like 2 or 3, to be entirely honest. So it was nice to see in that again. I liked the message of it. The whole sequence is they're at the train station, and they see this generic salaryman bump into some old lady rushing for the train. And Aruto starts, complaining. He's like, oh, what the hell? That guy's mean. You did all that. He hurt that old lady. And then the dad robot pulls up his identity. He's like, oh, well, he's a worker for the company. And, he's about to get this big promotion that'll help his family and blah, blah. So he's probably not thinking about that. It's like, you got to kind of observe all of the angles and not necessarily make a rash judgment just based on what you initially see. And I really enjoyed that message. That's again, a fairly standard message that's been done a lot before in this series, and 01 kind of did that to a lesser extent. But I enjoyed that. I really liked the way it was written. It was a nice, I don't want to say moral dilemma, but just the way the information was presented was very interesting to me, and I enjoyed that. And the training sequence in the holodeck was really fun. It was nice seeing, it's some nice fluid action in a new environment, out of suit especially. And I liked a little bit of the subversion there with it not being straightforward, and Aruto was supposed to tackle the course in a specific way, and that's what the real training was. And again, it kind of goes into the same message of Aruto is not responsible, and it's kind of derivative. But I liked the way it was done here rather than how it was at the beginning of the issue, where he's just being yelled at again by the same people the same way. So that was good. I would have liked to see that a little bit longer. It would have been nice to, because it's only a couple of pages. It would have been nice to see that a little bit more extended, seeing him try it multiple times and repeatedly failing before he gets told the real reason why he needs to do it. Which would have been nice. It would have been nice to see that. There is definitely a little bit of fluff that could have been cut out here. Like there's a brief cameo from Horobi, who's basically just here to deliver more exposition on Ragnarok and does fucking nothing. It's just him, no Jin. I guess it makes sense considering where this was at this point of the show, but it's still weird that it's just him and nobody else. Still. And then the ending fight with Ragnarok was much shorter, so there's not a whole lot to say there. But it was good. I enjoyed it. The environment lended itself to a interesting fight with not a whole lot of clutter or stuff to distract. So I enjoyed that. Overall, very good issue. Our Ragnarok still doesn't have enough development, but it seems like they're starting to hint more at it, and it seems like the next issue is going to really kind of actually go into it. But overall, a much better issue. I really enjoyed it. I think this is definitely more in the direction of what I was hoping for with the comic as compared to the first issue. And again, not that the first issue was bad. I really enjoyed the first issue. But this feels more in line with what the show was, and especially the early season. And it feels more like what I was expecting when I initially went into it. So I think that's a good sign. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next issue. Hopefully the quality keeps up. I mean, it's been solid so far, and it can only go up from here, in my opinion at least. So yeah, again, definitely recommend it. Give it a look. Can't wait for the next issue. Hopefully things keep going from here. That's all for me this time. Thank you for watching.